Okay, so I continue with my sculpting here. I went and did a bit more work on my sculpture and did a bit more detail on the, some of the wrinkles here and there. It's not completely finished, but has some additional elements to it. I added some extra alpha work, pushing some of the geometry here and there just to make it a bit better. At some point, and it went up to 5, subdivision 5, which is pretty high. It's saying that it has 39 million um, vertexes or up points. And that, of course, is making it a bit slower. And so one thing I did, I went and erased my undo history. I saved a new version of my file, and I went on there, edit and deleted my undo history. If you do this here, it'll delete all your older history, and I think this one deletes just the history that is connected to this tool. Just as you know, every subtool has its own history, and so we have in this case, I just deleted the history that's connected to this one because that's the only one that I've been working on. So that saved, reduced the file size and made my file a bit more efficient. Of course, I saved a new version of it just in case I needed to go to the older file. So my file's a bit, released from some of that extra memory that is carrying within the file, which is great because it's not a temp file, it's a memory within the file, only that it makes it bigger and could be a little bit riskier too. Um, I could always try, and I've been debating between under my geometry here between keeping my subdivision at 5 level or staying within subdivision 4. You see, in subdivision 4 level, the difference is not that big. So in 5, I'm risking of having too much memory being used and having my program crashing at some point, which is a risk that may happen always. And that is something that I wanna just keep in mind. I'm gonna keep it at 5 still because I wanna test a couple of extra little things in this video. So hopefully my computer can hold on and try doing it. So the next thing I'm gonna show you here is the use of masking. As is here, and go here in the masking section. And masking becomes a good tool for you to generate detail and help yourself in pushing certain things more and helping yourself on doing it here. Pressing my Alt key and moving around, kind of learning also the tools. And of course, you can see how the only one that I haven't figured out doing within this window is zoom in. I gotta do zoom in this way here. But okay, here it is. And then I'm gonna rotate right there. So let's say I want to do a little bit of um, work on my dinosaur's face. So, and you see that if I press my control key, I imagine it's command key on a Mac, you'll be able to do some masking to preserve. So I'm gonna change my tool size, pressing my space bar right now. So I'm gonna sharpen a little bit my tool there and use on holding control. So I'm saying, for example, I'm gonna be masking uh, the inside area of his eye just to get that area to be preserved. So now I can try doing a bit more masking right here. And you can do also, a little bit of here, trying to correct a little bit, undo that a little bit there. I'm undoing this, correcting it. Let me say that is it. And I can always inverse my mask if I want to at some point. and then say maybe I want to mask a little bit better here. And go inverse one more time. So I'm not completely convinced with it, but I'm gonna try to go with it as I let me get closer. I'm struggling between my pen and my size of my brush. Here is I just use too small. Let's see if that one will take care of it now. I'm just keeping it like that for now. Okay, so now I'm going to use my sculpting tool here. I'm going to keep it with the standard just to show the effect. And I'm going to broaden my tool again and broaden my softness so that I'm not pushing too hard on the edge. So I'm here now sculpting, but of course that little section there is being protected from my sculpting. So if I clear my mask, and you can see it's been a bit pronounced, a bit more pronounced, a bit too much, but then I can go back with shift and smooth. Still remembers my last selection of shift, so and smooth it and then get a little extra detail there, a little bit extra softening on this side and then sharper on the top, so that makes it a little bit better. All right, so got a little message by clicking shift and alt at the same time, I think. All right, so masking of course gives you options for blurring it or sharpening the mask. So if I go and paint here and then try to shrink my mask, um, it's a little bit slow now, and I can also blur a little bit. My computer's still thinking, so that's when you get into, because it's too big of a value. You see blur the right away by clicking on blur. You can blur it a bit more, so that helps. Click a couple of times. Um, See if I can. So let's see if I can just try to do a little bit of sculpting there, and then clear on my mask, and you will get a little extra detail there. So you can continue doing some of the masking on your own on our frame here, and move on. Um, the next thing that I want to talk about is adding some noise to this. There's an opportunity for us to go beyond sculpting, and it is say you want to put an extra noise, so you don't have to be doing sculpture in every single corner, and make it a bit more organic looking. So for that, we can go here under the surface section, and under the surface section, we have this thing called noise. So when you see it here, you can get your object and you can frame it here, or you can zoom in or zoom out, right? Um, or rotate around, of course. Let me try to bring it. I think in this one here, I can get my control key to zoom in. It works here, but doesn't work in there. And my alt key allows me to move it. So that makes it a bit easier. I can always use the guys here on the screen if I. Alright, so right now you see that right away my object got a noise. Let me try to do it in a place where it's more noticeable, like his head. Um, and um, and that noise came from a just automated noise the program has, although it's kind of like a generic noise. You can see here it's doing a 3D application of the whole thing, and you can change the scale so you can make it bigger or smaller to give a little bit more uh, detail to it. It's not the ideal noise, but one thing for sure that you want to pay attention to is is using 3D. I probably prefer to be using my UV map because my UV map will probably provide a better laid out noise beyond just trying to do the 3D thing. And of course, with that, I will have to go modify it one more time. Um, but that is kind of like a plug-in noise or a noise that comes by default with the program. So I'm gonna actually use the noise plug, which is an option for me to go and find other positional noises that I can try. Thinking right now, there's a checkboard. Not the deal. I'm gonna try something that gives me a different feel. And you can play with any of them, but let's see. I had tried uh, snake skin, and I had tried let me snake skin, see how I can use it. This is a bit hard for me to try to figure out. I think there's a color component to it, but since I'm just doing noise for the sculpting, I'm not paying too much attention to it. So I'm just simply say okay there without changing any values there. And right away you notice that the I lost it there. The object got little see if I can get closer again. Some lines started to appear here and there, and that's because that noise is being now applied on top of the noise that is already there on the object. So, and that noise is the plugin noise versus the regular noise scale. And so you have two different, you have the strength of basic noise and the strength of the other one. So if you say the mix of them, you can bring the mix back to zero. You will not see the bass noise anymore, and but you can still see the lines that the second one generated. So those lines, you can try to play with the plugin scale, and you start seeing something going on my object. I can also change the strength of it so that I can show more much of it. I'm kind of bringing it down actually. So I'm gonna just continue scaling down the plugin, and you see that that generates kind of like a grid all around, which is what the snake noise is, and you can always change the scale of it and play with it a bit more. Right now it's going upward, so I'm gonna just go push it the other way. Actually, I'm gonna keep going to the other direction so I can try getting it to the inverse effect. Try rotating it to see if I can get it to do. I can have an angle in Z, in X, in Y, in Z, rotate it, see if that makes a difference. It's trying to move it there. It's not easy to manipulate it, but you can try working with it. You can change the scale in one direction or the other one. And then this is this other one here. So yes, it's not probably what you want, and you'll be able to play with it maybe a bit more. You can go again and edit the noise if you don't like that one, and you say, okay, maybe it's not snake skin, maybe scales, and play with that to see the scales give you a better solution. You see the scales have a different appearance. Went too big with it, we go small. And you can rotate and look at it and try to work the best. The strength of scale, let me just zoom in here a little bit more. I think in this case, I want the strength backwards. Feel that that's the best direction it needs to go. But I'm not completely happy with it. It's just like, yes, but maybe no. I'm not totally sure. Um, I can always just simply turn it off and just not don't do it right now. Just using the regular plugin one more time, so I can bring it back down, keep it there. The other option I have there is an alpha as a noise, and that allows me to go and bring a a texture that I brought. And let's say, for example, I get this gray leather texture from I got this one from Tesla.com. I'm gonna open that one, and this one comes very big. So alpha scale now, I can go and modify the way this one looks, and this one start giving me maybe too small. Start giving me a bit of a sense of elephant skin. Um, it's a bit too much, but let me see if I can zoom out a bit to look at it better. And I'm going to change the strength here. So there you start seeing, okay, that might do the trick. You want to push it a tiny bit more because when you apply to your geometry right now, we're just looking at what you're looking at right now is like a bump, right? So you're not really looking at the final results just yet. This is just a pure bump effect that the thing is doing. So you can visualize it, and you probably want to exaggerate a little bit that texture. And I'm gonna say, okay, I'm happy with this. There's another thing that I want to share with you here is that I could make, because right now it's pretty much applying that image all over my object, and you can tile it so that it repeats the same texture over and over as many times as you need. So if it is too big for you, in my case it seems to be working just fine. But if I want to tile it and make it a bit smaller, you can always do that. And in my case, I think it becomes too small. So I'm gonna keep it just at one. But when the other option you have is when you keep it at one like this, we can work with this curve, and this curve is a way for me to soften the edges of those. Remember, these are squares that are tied to a texture. So the squares of this texture become softer. So if you look back, you see the object kind of loses a little bit of the effect in certain places. But that's kind of done randomly, or better, more based on whatever the square is. So I'm not going to do that just here. I'm going to just try to remove that dot. So keep it the way it was before. Let me just zoom in one more time. When I see it looks okay, I'm going to try to push the strength a tiny bit more. Just to push a tiny bit more so I can try make if I don't like it I can come back and fix it. So I'm going to say okay, and that apply the whole thing to the object. Right now I'm looking at it a bit much. You can see noise, the mouth and everything, but it's not applied to the sculpt yet. In order to apply to I'm working in model and level 5, so this might take a little while to process. And so I'm going to just say under the surface section still, I'm going to say apply to mesh. And then, of course, my computer right now is cranking and trying to do the process. We're going to just give it a few moments for it to do it. I think it just did it. So if I now go and try zooming in on this object, you discover the texture was decent with passed along, and now I can say, you know what? Let me just soften it in a few places. So let me just change the scale a little bit here, and maybe soften it. That's a little too much. Undo that. Then let's go to my smooth tool here. Okay, and I'm going to just change the intensity of smooth maybe to something like 20 there, so it's not completely 100%. So I can soften the effect in, oh, that's too far. I'm gonna do that. Let me just try to move around here. Sometimes it still tricks me. So I'm gonna just soften here, change my size a little bit, and soften there. And of course, soften in certain places here. Oh, that's the one sculpting. Let me soften, and so on and so forth. You can go around and do the mouth or the face. Maybe the beak doesn't need that because definitely I need to clean up some of that. So let me just try to zoom in right there, right, and say, yeah, I don't want the beak to have that. So I can soften some of that too. The only downside of softening there is that I'm losing some of the older detail that I had. So if it was on the same level, on the same subdivision level, and now it's not working. Hold on. Crank it up a little bit. Saving right now. A big file, so it takes a while. Alright, so increase my intensity here and do it that way. There's another thing that I want to mention, and it is that if you don't want to have to go through this all this softening on the racing that we did here, let me just undo here to somewhere back here. Hopefully there. Let's see, that might be a bit farther back. I need to go before I applied my before I applied that to mesh the noise. See if I can go back a bit more. I went too far. Let me go forward. Slow because the computer of course is cranking. I think yeah, I think this is it. This is before I apply to mesh. So you can see the texture a bit softer there. But I still, the noise still applied to it. But what I can do now is instead of applying it to mesh, I can say mask by noise. So what it does, it uses the noise as a mask. And then, of course, slow because I'm in level 5, so that might, you may want to test on level 4 first before if you can do that because, you need a powerful computer to do this on my computer. So you see here now, the noise becomes a mask. And so now I can say, you know what, I don't want to have that noise on the character's face, but I want to have it on his neck. And of course, on his neck, I can start using my tools to start softly, and I can test how much intensity I want to do. That's too much, of course. I need actually to push the opposite. Let me see if I can do some of that. Because whatever is white, that's too strong. Do that. Do maybe 5. And gently start painting my effect on those regions that I want to apply the texture to. So you decide which one works best for you. Of course, it's a matter of trial and error. and doing all of it as you are developing your skin, of course, all of it based on your original design and idea. I'll try to do a little bit of it here and call it a day. So I'm gonna pause my video and then we're gonna export it out. Okay, so I went there around for a few minutes and um, kind of used my standard tool to pull out some of that texture using the mask. And now I'm going to simply clear my mask. I'm going back to masking. I'm gonna clear my mask so I don't see it anymore. And now I'm going to look at my object. And if I need to go back to the mask, I can always go to surface and open up to the noise, and I should be able to connect right away to the noise, and you can see right away the noise coming back on, and I can apply it again. I'm just turn it off because I don't want the noise to be doing it. I can add a bit more extra details here and there, but these are things are my object. Now, of course, I invite you to test. Don't spend 3 hours or 5 hours sculpting and doing stuff, and we're gonna test. So you're gonna go and bring it to Maya, which is we're gonna do in our next video, and test out the process so we know how it is working and how much more we need to do to it. For now, I'm gonna save my file, so I'm gonna just save another version of it. So just I have a backup here, and I'll see you guys in the next video.